Hello everybody, and welcome back to my home here in East Tennessee. And I have been working on these Cattleyas all day long. If I had filmed everything, this would be called the Orchid Whisperer Marathon. There was everything in these Cattleya pots. There was New Zealand sphagnum moss that was like really broken down, that was stuck in the root balls of these two plants. There was potting soil and perlite and bark and just a little bit of everything. So I've had to soak and let them dry and soak and let them dry for the past 24 hours. That's how long I've been working on this. I told my husband, this is going to be so worth it because these are two beautiful Cattleyas. I have thought and thought. I have even put in messages to my friend Paula with Hillbilly Orchids because she's grown orchids in bark, and I was asking her, okay, I have grown orchids in New Zealand sphagnum moss for 20 years but never bark. What do you think? So she gave me her ideas on that. She said it just depends on how much you want to water them. So I've taken that advice, and thank you, Paula. And wanted to let you know I am sponsored by Orchid Supply Store. Let me show you their label. And their web address is orchidsupply.store.com. Here is their phone number, and everything that you see me using here today is from them. So they are your one-shop repotting stop. So I'm going to just pick right up from where I left you yesterday. And these need to be going in pots soon because both of these I should say, have new canes growing. And I can't just let them, I can't just, can you see? Yes. Well, no, hang on. Is that better? New cane growing here, new cane growing here. Brand new cane that just grew out, and I can't just say, oh, okay, I'm going to leave these out of any potting mix for a week until I decide. No, I need to get them in homes. I need to get them back under their light so that they can continue to grow. So what I've decided to do is something rather different. I have mixed up both the medium and small Orchiata bark in a bowl. I'll show you that. Some people mix up cakes in bowls. I mix up Orchiata bark in bowls. Okay, this is small and medium size Orchiata bark that I'm going to use in the same pot. I don't want it as large as the medium. I don't want it as small as the small. But if I put both of them together, I think that this is going to work. And I'm also going to add some small size Orchiata to my New Zealand sphagnum moss. This is my Cattleya Vita Lee Limelight, and this one I had to take more off of this root system. So I want to get this root system started, like jump started. You see the new canes here are growing. I've got to get this into some potting mix. And so I decided, okay, this one is going to go into some New Zealand sphagnum moss to get the roots going. And I'm also going to add in some small Orchiata. I really do like bark in my pots because the bark offers some tannins. Also, the Orchiata bark has dolomite in it, so it's going to give this orchid a really good source of constant magnesium and calcium, which is just so important for root growth. Okay, and this is the root system to the other one, and as you see, it is much, much better. So this one is going to go into the medium and small size Orchiata bark. I believe that that's going to be just the right mix for this Cattleya. And I'm going to use a 4-inch translucent pot that I got from my supplier, the Orchid Supply Store. And you all can just kind of look over my shoulder as I do this. Here's the root system. I've already got my New Zealand sphagnum moss, hydrated. And as you see, I keep it very light and airy. I just kind of place it in there and just kind of make sure everything's very light. If you push down, then you're going to lose the sponge action of the moss. Okay, and here I'm going to add in some of the small Orchiata bark. And I'm going to have to remember what this feels like, because I don't water these pots. I put too much in. I don't water these pots until they weigh practically nothing. Because if you overwater your sphagnum moss, you're going to end up with a really soppy, yucky mess. Okay, everything's looking good. And just remember when you're adding everything to keep it light and airy. You want air pockets in your moss. Everybody asks me about that. You know, how do you grow in moss? You almost feel like you're not watering the plant enough because you're watering a sponge. Literally, New Zealand sphagnum moss, it's a sponge. So you know how when you're working, you know, cleaning up something with a sponge, doesn't take very much water to get a sponge really soppy wet. And then you have to go and, okay, this is looking good. And then you have to go and squeeze it all out. Same thing here. It's exactly the same thing. So as you see, I'm just kind of trying to keep it. It's almost like I do it a strand at a time. Okay. I'm going to just continue this. See, when you get a big strand like that, you're going to take it and lay it flat. Yeah, I know that sounds really particular, but believe me, if you put too much sphagnum moss in your pot, you're going to end up with a heavy, messy pot that doesn't ever dry. And I'm going to show you step by step here because so many people have asked me how I do this, and I'm just like, you know, I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. Do you see how this plant is already starting to stand up in this pot? And like I told you yesterday, this is soaking. Did I tell you yesterday? I don't know. This has been soaking in about 55 parts per million, 60 parts per million of CalMag, because I like to start the orchid out in CalMag as soon as possible, because this, especially this root system, was I had to really do a lot to get it ready. There was a lot of rot in this because there was a big plug of moss that was right in the center of the root ball. I had to pick it out with my fingernails. My husband was watching me today. He says, man, I couldn't do that. And I said, yeah, orchid hands, you should have one man hand here, one small hand here, so that you can do the heavy work with this hand and the light, delicate work with this hand. Wouldn't that just be perfect? So I'm not wanting, wow, I'm still seeing a little bit of light. I need to push this down. So this is how carefully, when you're really careful at this point with your moss, it's just going to save you a lot of time. This is not something you do in a hurry. This is the reason why I'm really taking my time on this video too. You just can't rush this process. because if you do, you're just going to be going back and redoing it. I'm going to fine tune this just a little bit and I will be right back. Okay, there wasn't a lot of tweaking to do, but just wanted to show you. About 5 minutes has gone by. Do you see how there's no gaps? That's how you know. Like if you get over here and there's a big hole in your pot over here, then you want to go back in and you want to fill in that space. But this looks good to me. Okay, another really important thing to keep in mind is, okay, this is New Zealand sphagnum moss, and I don't want algae growing in this. I used to let this turn green, and then it never hurt anything before. But now, since we are so humid in this environment now, I don't want that to happen, because it was going pretty green and then it was going to algae and cyanobacteria. So I had to take steps to offset that. So what I would normally do is I would use something like this, a black or a green pot, but this is a 6-inch pot. This was a 4-inch pot, and this would have gotten lost in a 6-inch pot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this pot down in here. I don't want any light getting to it, and I'm going to fill this in with something, probably packing peanuts or something of the sort. But I want to do something else that's really helped, and that is I want to cover the top with a layer of bark. That's going to keep the light from turning all this moss green. At one time, I almost thought that I was just going to have to stop growing in moss. And I thought, no, you're just going to figure out how to make it work. And so I top dressed that with some bark. This is just my mixture here of medium and small. And you kind of place it, like, not a big, huge layer, just enough to keep the sun from turning it green. And there we go. There is Cattleya number 1. Yay. And for Cattleya number 2, I'm going to be using a 5-inch pot. These started out in 3.5-inch pots, by the way. And so this has the nice drainage on the bottom of it. I love these. These are very sturdy. I love a good sturdy pot. And on the bottom of this, I have placed the medium chunk Orchiata bark, because I don't want the small going out the holes on the bottom. So that's going to be my base layer, just to make sure that everything stays put. So here we go with Cattleya number 2 in medium and small Orchiata bark mix. Okay, I added quite a bit more because the bottom of the plant is going to be setting right on top like so. But this one is going to grow. These roots are actually very nice. And so I have a feeling that this is going to just explode. So I thought, let's go ahead and try. This is the one I want to try in the bark. I've thought about this long and hard. I actually thought about this for about 10 days, what I was going to do. And do you see how these 2 new canes are coming out right here? So I want to give them room here. So I pushed the rest of the plant back to give them room. Let me see if this is gonna. Yeah, that's good. But if I went with a 4-inch pot on this one, just wouldn't be large enough. Oh, and it is so easy to use Orchiata bark. Yeah, this is just so simple. And like I said, you don't dampen it before you use it. I'm going to soak this in some CalMag and some seaweed extract after I get done for about 30 minutes or so. That's all you do when you use Orchiata bark. It is so easy. Oops, see, there's a hole there. So I need to go back and just kind of, hope you can see what I'm doing. See how it just kind of falls in there? Let me do it this way. And I'm going to continue to fill in that little hole that way. I'll be right back. And I'm just continuing to work my way around. Tap gently, you hold the plant to make sure it's nice and secure, and just kind of thump it like that. I think that when I repot my phals in the fall, I think that tapping and thumping, I think that it does something, it makes them spike. That's just my own opinion, because it seems like as soon as I repot them, they spike. It's kind of funny. Yes, I like the repotting process now that I found the right stuff to repot in. That's the thing, you gotta use the right supplies, the right bark, the right moss, and things go well. This is a little bit lopsided. I might go in and try to fix that a little bit. Hang on. Okay, now that's perfect. I was talking and not paying attention, which is something that my elementary school teachers told me all the time. Yes, I've always been a big talker. And I think that when I repot orchids, I get really, really chatty too, because I enjoy it. So I hope that this has really helped you all. If you have any questions, if I've left anything out, feel free to just leave it in the comment section. I'm going to go and I'm going to soak this, like I said, in about 55 parts per million CalMag and about 15-20 parts per million of seaweed extract. I'm going to let that soak for 30 minutes. And then my other one, the one that's here in the moss, this little guy right here, he does not need to be watered. But what I need to do is I need to lift this and see how much it weighs, because there's still some moisture in there. This is, you know, rehydrated New Zealand sphagnum moss. But I need to kind of take note of how much that weighs so that I'll know when to water it. I'm thinking about once a week for the one in moss. I'm thinking that for this one, I'm probably going to be watering it about twice a week. Paula told me probably to start out kind of like with my phals, about twice a week, and then it'll get to where I can water this once a week along with my other scheduled orchids. So that'll be good. And thank you all so much for joining me. This has been a lot of fun to share with you all. Just wanted you all to know I appreciate you all so much. I appreciate your friendships, your kind words. You all are just my orchid family. And y'all just mean a lot to me. So before I end this video, I would love to say the blessing over you, your families, and your plants. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. You all make it a great day. We'll talk to you next time.